this one out loud.
Okay. The media now devote more coverage to crime than they did 10 years ago. Yet, this is not because the crime rate has increased, but rather because the public is now more interested in reading and hearing about crime. After all, a crucial factor in the media's decision about what issues to cover and to what extent to cover them is the interest of their audience.
All right, so what is our conclusion?
Hold on. The part where it's like, this is not because the crime rate has increased, but rather because the public is now more interested in reading about it.
This part right here is the main conclusion.
Okay.
Right up to that point. And so how we would break this down is the media now devote more coverage to crime than 10 years ago. That's just a fact, right? We can't argue.
Yeah. And I think like background information, right?
Yeah. And then we say, hey, but this is not because the crime rate has increased, but rather it's because the public is now more interested in reading and hearing about crime. Mm-hmm. And then we go on to support that, right? By saying, after all, blah, 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 blah. So this is support too, right? All right, so what sentence we're looking at here is the proposition that the public is now more interested in reading and hearing about crime. What role does that play in this argument?
Oh, we discussed this. We literally just said this. Because initially I thought it was part of the conclusion, but it's the part where it says but kind of that like separates them, kind of.
Yep. So what is it would be like, what is this kind of saying?
It's like explaining why that conclusion's happening.
Yeah, it's saying like, hey, it's not this, it's actually this, right?
Yeah.
All right, so go ahead and start with A and tell me like it, leave it, hate it.
Okay. Okay. It supports the conclusion that the media now devotes more coverage to crime than it did, blah, blah, blah. No. Because that's not the conclusion.
Right, yeah, it's not. It supports the conclusion that the media now devote more coverage to crime. Yeah, nope, perfect.
It is presented as evidence that the media decide what to cover and to what extent, depending of the public. No.
Awesome. Yeah, it's not evidence of that.
No. And it's not a counterexample. So not C.
What is a counterexample?
A counterexample would have been like something like with like an opposite view, but this
yeah, it's not. A counterexample is like to prove something wrong completely.
Yeah, and it didn't really do that.
That's awesome.
It is a generalization based on the claim that crime rate has increased over the past 10 years. It's okay when they say generalization based, what are they trying to say? I know that isn't right.
Like, do we take this claim and then make a generalization off of it? So we're saying that the crime rate has increased over the past 10 years. So, and then make like a general statement.
Mm-hmm.
Do we take, is that what that is? Is that a general?
No, I found it was more specific than that. And it didn't, I don't think it like, not that it didn't relate, but like it didn't like, that sentence wasn't
not a generalization. Like we're not saying that, like we're not saying like a tendency or this is what is likely to happen or anything like that based off of generalization.
Okay. And then I guess we're left with, well, I don't like these so much anyways. So it is offered as an alternative explanation of why the media devote more coverage to crime than it did 10 years ago. Because they said it's not, because the conclusion was it's not because the crime rate, but
yes, this is our alternative explanation, right? We're explaining why that happened.
Yeah.
So yeah, because the public is now more interested in reading and hearing about crime is an alternative explanation of why the media devotes more coverage to crime now than it did 10 years ago. And so that's why E is our answer.
Yay.
Awesome. All right.